I'm going to show you how in just one day, you could be charging 5 to 10 times more for your product or service without actually changing what it is or the deliverables involved. And it all boils down to a process called market positioning and value proposition, which we're going to be walking through three things: what it actually is, how it applies to your business, and how to use it to your advantage to get more profit for less work. Let's dive right into it. So, what we want to understand is that every business falls into one of these three tiers typically. And most of them, about 80%, are unfortunately in tier one, which is basically you are a commodity or a job title. And this is the exact position that the majority of business owners find them in, but you do not want to be here because, to illustrate this with water, you're basically interchangeable. So let's say we have our bottle of water here, and this could be just literally any water. You would probably think that this is something like 7-Eleven water or maybe Kirkland brand, just some generic one that you've never really given a second thought to. So to illustrate, it's just generic water. There's nothing special about it. And what happens is at this stage, you're really only able to charge how much it's worth, probably 99 cents, and how much the market is willing to bear at this stage. Because there's nothing special about it, you treat this as a commodity, just like you would the raw ingredients of something. Dirt, water, milk, something that you look at and you're just thinking to yourself, this is where the value perception comes in. And hence why people are able to charge higher rates or products are worth more, seemingly if they're made of the same stuff. Because value is all about what your customer or client feels will be a better experience as opposed to the opposite or different or competitor that's in the market. TLDR, basically how much more they're willing to pay for the perception that your thing is better than the alternative. Meaning somebody might pay a higher premium for a better TV, even if the ingredients of that TV are the same thing. This is why Samsung is able to charge $300, $400, $500 more than particularly like a Walmart brand or some sort of generic brand, even though they're the exact same panels made in the same factory. Because your value perception is that that Samsung TV will last longer, it has a better warranty, it has better craftsmanship, but it might just be made of the same stuff. This right here has very low value because you view this water as interchangeable, which also means that the price is ultimately either fixed or infinitely decreasing. This is, for instance, why you might be willing to pay $3 for this bottle of water at a concert, even though it's the same water. But you right now are probably selling your product as a commodity or a job title, meaning you're listing off its ingredients, its features, or if you're selling a service and a job title, you're listing off the different things that you're doing that only matter to you. So for instance, if this were a service-based one, let's say this is our product that we're selling in our tier one, you might say something like, I'm a landscaper, or I am a photographer. And the reality is if you're listing your job title as your selling proposition, you are opening yourself up to scrutiny from the other competitors, because now they're looking at this landscaper, photographer, or CPA and saying, who is the cheapest out of these that I can get the best value out of? You unfortunately are just commodifying your service or you're making yourself the 7-Eleven, Kirkland, or generic brand of water, because now they're just saying, well, I can get a different CPA or a different photographer or a different landscaper. So they could probably take you and compare you to a competitor. And even though you may be doing 2 or 3 times as much work or a better job or more detail, they don't see it that way. You are now a Kirkland or 7-Eleven brand of water. You can't go higher on your price because they'll say the other person's cheaper. So you have to add more value, at least have a niche, or at least something that you are defined. So basically this is what it is. Now we're moving to who it's for. And what ends up happening is now we're talking about like more of our high-end brands. So let's say Fuji is a brand of water, or Fiji water, I should say, is a higher tier brand of water. even though this is the exact same water that presumably might go into here, but you see it and you say to yourself, that is higher quality. Or you might look at this and say, like Perrier or San Pellegrino sparkling water, or even Juaritos has sparkling water. You recognize this as a household brand. So what you're looking for now is, you're no longer a landscaper. You're a landscaper for, let's say, people who have 7,000 square foot plus homes. So now you're a landscaper for people who have mansions. And now you're no longer a photographer, you're a photo for dogs. And now you're no longer a CPA, but you are a CPA for, let's say, law firms, as an example. So now you've taken the same thing, but you've become an expert in that field, which means a few key things, especially if you're a service business. Now, the product one, because you've positioned yourself for somebody in particular, now all of a sudden you could take something like water and say, well, this is water for soldiers, this is water for firefighters, this is water for busy moms, which means that now all of a sudden you're going from probably 99 cents to like $1.50, or probably I would say the upper threshold might be something like $2.50. But even though you still have that niche, you're still changing this. So now realistically, it's the same product, but what just happened is a few key things. The perceived value went up. So now it looks like you're positioned in the market, meaning that you've taken this commodity and you've stood for something. So your value just went up and your price also just went up. Meaning you can charge more for the same water, but because it's made specifically for somebody, if you want to test this theory as well, is that you can go down the grocery store aisle and look at any commodity, protein powder, soaps, wipes, whatever. It's pretty much given that 90 to 80% of them are all made in the same factory, but by slapping a label, repositioning it in the market, again, that's exactly what we just did, is now we've taken this commodity and we've just changed the position in the market. We have just doubled, maybe 1.5, maybe 3, 4, 5 times the amount of price. You see this all the time where it's like these makeup removal wipes would also be very well with dude wipes, or they might be baby wipes. And depending on the perceived value of where they're at inside of the market, meaning people are looking at that and saying, I need this. The bigger the pain, the bigger the need, the higher the price, the higher the value. So just like I could take a Walmart TV and then I could slap a Samsung logo on it and a bunch of Samsung specific features and charge 2 times the amount for what is essentially a panel that all the companies are going to use from the same factory, I now have repositioned myself in the market and increased my value. Let me give you an example of this with the service-based business. If you're saying I'm a landscaper, people are going to say, who does landscaping for the cheapest amount? Who does photography for the cheapest amount? Who is the cheapest accountant I can get? But if you go after a particular niche, then suddenly you are able to increase your rates because of 3 key things. Number 1, you become a specialist in that field. Number 2, you become known for that thing, which means that not only are you better at it because you're a specialist, but other people will associate that experience with you. And because you're focusing on that, people see as less likelihood of failure, meaning if you say you do that thing for that person, that means that you're likely probably good at doing that thing and that you've been doing it for a long time. Whereas this CPA might have started 6 months ago, but if you're a CPA for law firms, they think, perfect, I am a law firm. Number 2, you become known for that thing. And number 3, you also have far less variables to deal with, which is a huge advantage. So you can optimize the same thing for a product, meaning you can choose the ingredients or the supply chain or anything that it's made up for so that your target customer still gets the desired result, and you can optimize it without having to guess what should go into it. Same thing with the service. You can reduce your deliverables, the hours, anything like that to still get the desired result. Now, we've changed our market positioning and we've just increased our value and increased our price. Now we're going to do what's called a transformational market position. And this is where value gets insanely high. So this is no longer what it is or who it's for, but this is what they get out of it, the experience that they get on the other side. So the best way to think about this is before and after. Because remember, at this stage, you're still selling just a job title, or you're still selling a product, hopefully with an attached avatar or customer or somebody you're orienting this thing to. Like, yeah, I do car detailing for sports cars, I do landscaping for waterfront properties. But the transformation means that now you can actually sell the outcome, and that makes you usually incomparable in your field. So let's take a brand like that sells water right now, which, by the way, is a $1.8 billion company. And you might know them as Liquid Death. So if you haven't heard of Liquid Death, there's a very particular thing that's happening right now. By the way, it's just water in a can, nothing special. And what's happened right now is they can charge just an infinite amount of money for whatever they want. Just water in a can. In theory, you'll obviously reach a certain point where nobody's willing to pay it, but I'm telling you now, if you go onto the internet and you type in $60 bottle of water, there's brands that are actually doing that. And this is exactly how they do it and how you can do it. So let's think about Liquid Death. They have a commodity, which is water. They have a niche, which, if you haven't seen their product, is metalheads, punk rockers, rebels. This is their defined niche. This is their target they're going after. The transformation that they're looking for, beyond just the incredible marketing and market positioning that they've done by going after this untapped market by making water cool, which, by the way, again, go to the grocery store. If you look at the water aisle, it's all the same stuff. It's a snow-peaked mountain. It's caps. It's a clear bottle. It's all the exact same branding. So they saw that hole and they just went straight after it in the market. But this actually solves a very big problem, which is, let's say that you are a person and now you've quit drinking alcohol. What ends up happening is you might go to a party and you got all your friends here who are looking at you going, man, Dave, why aren't you drinking any beer or a cocktail or something like that? So when you go around drinking just Evian or Fiji or 7-Eleven or Kirkland, people are going to notice. But this looks like a hard seltzer, or it looks like a beer. So what they're solving, the transformation, is if you are one of these people who is now exploring sobriety, which is huge with Gen Z and millennials now, you can look like you're drinking without having the hangover, without going through all the calories, without going through all of the drunken, rambunctious elements. That is solving a transformation. This is solving a pain for somebody. And the best thing is that this is incomparable in the market. So how does this apply to your business? Well, let's break it down. If we wanted to illustrate this, so now we have our what, who, transform, or a marketing guru, or you run Facebook ads or something. If you were to start there, that's going to be your what. So who, maybe you might say like med spas. Okay. So now you work for med spas or physical therapists or something like that. So this is now your transformation. You need to approach this next step. So what we're going to do is, instead of saying that we're a marketer for med spas, we're going to say what we actually do is we get 30 to 40 leads per month for your practice. So now you have said, well, I'm not just a landscaper, photographer, or CPA, and I'm also not any of these niches. I actually say, we actually get you this outcome. We get you 30 to 40 leads for your practice. This is now the transformation, because this med spa or this doctor's office, this dental office, looks at this and says, there is no other company in the market that gets me this outcome. Because you could start here and say, hey, I run Facebook ads. I run Facebook ads for dental practices. I get your dental practice 30 to 40 leads per month using something like using, I don't know, my patient flow system or something like that. So this is where you'd say your brand or your branded thing using brand process. Because now you're no longer, again, you're no longer water. You're no longer water for busy professionals. You are now liquid death, which is metalheads, punk, rebel, but is solving the pain of people who quit drinking, still want to look like they're drinking and not experience the FOMO at a party. You actually get 30 to 40 leads per month for that practice using whatever brand and name you want to call it. Now what you've done is you've taken this, using your marketing positioning, you focused on a particular need, and now you've gone over to here, which is you're selling the transformation. Now, if you've made it this far in the video, I really want you to think about this. If you're selling a job title right now, or if you're selling the ingredients, like you sell pies, cakes, coffee, tea, or if your job title, a landscaper, a CPA, a marketer, whatever, if that's how you introduce yourself, you will stay here and you will always be going down in price because your job will become easier. There will become more people inside of the market. And ultimately, you will be at the whim of how much knowledge that your customer or client understands, how they can compare you to competitors. So first you want to move into this territory, which is now you're focusing on one person who it's for. You're now no longer selling 7-Eleven water. You're selling Fiji water because Fiji water is for somebody. You have to niche down and you become a landscaper for 700 square foot homes or mansions. You become a photographer for dogs, or you become a CPA for law firms. That is where you add that addendum on here that makes you more valuable. Right now, between these two, you could probably be charging double to 3 times the amount of rates by just doing this process. Now, if you go through the transformation and you say, I'm selling this outcome, this result, this is where things start to get to that 5 to 10 times rate because you become incomparable in the market. You are able to predictably, consistently create that outcome, and you become known in your market for that actual outcome. So if we were to illustrate this again with just one more analogy that I think would help, this is a personal trainer for busy professionals. This is a personal trainer who works with busy professionals that want to lose 10 pounds in 30 days by doing 15-minute exercises so that you have to avoid lengthy workouts and you can continue to perform your duty as a tech entrepreneur. This takes that personal training and triples, quadruples, quintuples what they can charge, even though it's probably the same workout routine. What I want you to do for your exercise, if you've reached it this far in this video, is think about which tier you're at. If you're at 1, 2, 3, if you're at 1, you're probably selling just ingredients, features, commodity things, or if you're a service, you're selling a job title, or you're selling an actual service set. If you're on 2, you have a niche. You focus on one element within the market. You align your stuff, you position it in the market so that it's typically made for somebody. Or number 3, if you're already at this stage, maybe you could explore some lead generation or just scaling your business. Because if you're at this stage, you're probably already killing it. And this is where you want to be if you're not at this stage. So figure out which tier you're at. See what it would take for you to go from being at tier 1 or tier 2 to tier 3, because ultimately this is the end goal. If you haven't already done so, ask your target market or go do some research on Google to discover who is the tier 3 in your business. If you're a marketer, who's a tier 3 marketer? If you're a CPA, who's a tier 3 CPA? Who is the tier 3 product, or who is basically the poster child, for lack of a better term? Once you figure those out, you will be able to effectively just erase price off the map and it no longer becomes a variable. People will spend tons of money on things that are essentially commodified products just by the value perception. If you reach this stage, if you become basically a tier 3, you suddenly become max value and max price. Smartphone for people who are working, I don't know, as busy professionals. Personal trainer for busy tech CEOs. Personal trainer for tech CEOs who want to lose 10 pounds in 30 days without having to do long, complex exercises. Follow my tech CEO workout program, whatever name I would call it. I hope this video was valuable to you. If you have any comments or concerns or something that you're going through as a business owner, startup owner, freelancer, solopreneur, whatever you want to call yourself, go ahead and comment below because I want to address your concerns. I want to make content that's valuable to you, which if you did find this video valuable, make sure to subscribe. I put out one of these at least once a week, and it helps you grow, earn more profit, and actually accelerate your business. But until then, I'll see you next time.